can feel my body being tense. And then as my awareness, it just feels like my body relaxes and all that tension, all whatever energy, negativity, whatever you want to call it, it just kind of dissipates.
Tell me what it was like last December when everything was closing down.
I look at it, it was a very tumultuous time. Internally, spiritually, I hit the lowest point that I had felt at that point. In a way, I was in the darkest hour of my life at that moment, trying to just really stay afloat. Even if I had already abandoned myself, like I couldn't abandon my child. So that was my motivation. That's what kept me going. There were times where I felt like I gave up. I felt like I wasn't, all those negative cycles, all those thoughts that can bring you down. I mean, just going through the motions, seeing my own resistance, my own body's response to the load or the stress or all these changes, all these external factors and not being able to process it. It became something that felt overwhelming when in reality, I think just, taking a moment, not even taking a moment, just like allowing myself as opposed to resist and feeling. This is the best example that I could put. Like when you're drowning, you're in a pool or the ocean, wherever, right? You're in an open body of water, you're swimming, maybe you get a cramp, something happens, right? There's an occurrence. And if you start panicking, you're going to one, not be able to really think straight. And if you start doing that, then you might start freaking out. And therefore you now are oxygen, which could be your livelihood, whatever it is, whatever's keeping you afloat. And then you might just start sinking. That's what it felt like. It felt like I had been on a ship. At that point in that moment, I thought we were riding the same ship. I didn't know we were riding two different ships. And everything that had happened, I just felt like I was stranded and I was just literally staying afloat and just trying to find my way back to stability, felt like, whatever that was. And that's what it felt like. I would say, at least that's the best, analogy that I can make right now.
Pretty powerful one, right? Like being thrown overboard and trying to stay afloat, but having that panic come up and feeling like maybe you can't. Feeling
like you're drowning, even though you may not be. There's a saying in Spanish, I don't know if it translates back to the English, but there's a saying where it's like, you're drowning in a cup of water. Sometimes people make a situation much bigger than what it really is. I think that when you're in that mindset, like it just feels like that, even though like it's relative to you, like devalidating.
Yeah, because like people on the outside, they see the cup of water, and people say this all the time, right? When this happens, people are like, "Oh, you just have to deal with it. You got to get over it. You're gonna be okay," and they don't see that you're drowning.
And see, that's the thing now, as I realize that as I come to these discussions or when we meet up, I try to be keen of that because I know that I'm in a different space and these people and some of these men aren't in that space right now. So I try to be very wary of that, where I'm giving advice, like I know and I hear you, but I was also in that moment. And when people would tell me, like, I wasn't able to. I wasn't in the mental state to be able to really take that in and be just open.
Yeah, you can't hear it. It doesn't help to say that you're going to be okay because right now I'm drowning. Let's flip totally. Where are you now? So you just said it. You come to these coaching calls, right? And you're in a very different place than some of the people that are on those calls and still drowning.
I think that's the thing. It was like, I think I'm in a very different space. The pain, the attachment, all those things, they're still there. But just my perspective, I think, has changed and the way that I act upon it. In the past, what I was doing is I was resisting and I was trying to just resist to what I felt like I was trying to control and in a way doing all these other things just that I wouldn't, I guess, distract myself. Now, those things are there, right? And sometimes they pop up. I do think that some things just kind of have been eroded, but I'm in a great place physically, mentally. I just feel there's a conversation that I had with you before where I mentioned that there was a moment in time where it felt like I was not the same after that, right? Well, I think that during the first 6 months where I tried to do everything without the program, I was just trying to brute force everything and really trying to reason. And I thought that maybe that was the way they could do it, right? Now I realize like leaning into whether it's pain, discomfort, whatever it is, and really just breathing through it. And in that way, I can feel my body being tense. And then as my awareness, it just feels like my body relaxes and all that tension, all whatever energy, negativity, whatever you want to call it, it just kind of dissipates. And before I would tense up and I would contain it and not allow it to be externalized and it would go inward. But now it's like, if something goes through my life or like some energy, some external force, it's like, I'll take it in, but it doesn't stay stuck, because now I'm able to process it. I'm able to either have a conversation, or I'm able to internalize it and then digest it to the point that I need to, or I don't need to listen to it at all if I choose not to.
Gerardo, what does that look like in your life? What has changed externally because of, you've changed the way you're handling and moving through the emotions and the painful things and the triggers that come up? What impact has that had on your
This
your
is
life?
something I had a conversation with my mother earlier today. She saw me interacting with Sienna interactor, and my dad's seeing her too. And I think that in a way they're picking up how I'm treating her differently, that the way that they treated me. And I think they're seeing that. And we had a conversation, something similar, where we spoke about that. But to answer your question, I was unemotionally unavailable in my relationship with Sienna's mother. I wanted to make it work. I thought she was worth it. I loved her. There was social conditioning that was happening. But what I think is that it just helped me be my genuine self, be vulnerable with other people, being present, listening to other people, being compassionate, just having that self-awareness and having that emotional intelligence. I can have a discussion with somebody. I don't need to agree, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to go off of them just because I don't agree. Right now I can listen, I can agree to disagree. So I just think that it made my relationship that much more richer. Our relationship's different now, right? Yet at the same time, I do think that in a way, it helped us establish a better relationship. Obviously, the intention is to be there for Sienna, but that's just one example where I never thought that I would be able to converse with her. I mean, that was the intention when I contacted you. It's like, I know I want to be part of, my intention is to be part of my daughter's life. It feels like I can't do this right now, and it's very difficult for me. So my goal is to be able to do that. And I think that now I'm capable of not necessarily putting myself in other people's shoes or where they're coming from. I think it goes back to the ability to connect with other people and the co-regulation, but also just that having that compassion with other people and seeing who they are, not their actions, not what they're saying, but just as a person, and valuing them just as people, as a living thing, as a not even a living thing, just the fact that you are a human. Out of the infinitesimal possibilities, the fact that you're here and I'm talking to you, I appreciate that. And I'm so grateful. And I feel like now I'm present like that with a lot of, with everyone, which maybe at the past I had been, but for a while I wasn't able to be for a moment in time.
Gerardo, if like 8 months ago, I guess now, if you had been able to walk up to yourself then and say that you would feel that way about Sienna's mom, what do you think that past self would have said? I
guess I wouldn't have said anything. I would have just, when you were telling me, I just pictured myself hugging myself and just being there. Yeah. Like I wouldn't, there's nothing for me to say. It's like, I hear you, I'm here for you. I love you.
Gerardo, maybe there's not something clear to say to them either, but what would you say if you were talking to somebody else who's in that place where you were then?
I honestly, like when I see everybody else on the calls, in a way, I'm happy that they're there because they're getting the help that they feel they need, or that they've reached out, right? So I'm happy for them. If I could tell anybody that, I would tell the same thing. I would picture them and that same love. Like I said, it goes back to even Sienna's mom. If I see her and I felt like I'm sorry it didn't work out, that's it. That's a good question. Because my cousin is actually going through something very similar, and I have been trying to be there for him. Actually, it just happened maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so I've been really trying to just hear him out, be there for him. So if I were to, I've been trying to tell him what I've been learning. And I think he has it seems like, right? I would just tell him like, man, that's a good question. I don't know.
It's hard, right? It's hard to, what words can you say to that person who feels like they're drowning?
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like before, there's instances where it's easier to give other people advice other than yourself. But in this moment when you're asking me that, I guess I'm just thinking of all that pain, all that suffering. I feel like it's just, I don't want to say a lack of love, whether it's self-love, external love, whatever. So I guess the only thing, I may not say anything, but my heart feels it. And I feel for you, I'm here for you. And that's why that was very, I don't know if it was named, when he was starting to talk, it was important for me to say that, although he may not feel that. It's like, you're not here alone. And I want you to know that.
Maybe that's the best thing to say, right? Because most of the people I talk to who are going through these situations, that's what they feel, is really alone. Gerardo, I think that might be the perfect thing to end on. Is there anything else you would like to say? Because the people who watch this are those men who are in that place.
Like, I don't want to say like the same, like, it'll be okay. Things will get better.
What you just said, you're not alone. Like, I mean, that's a pretty powerful thing to hear.
Yeah. I mean, like, for instance, yesterday, I realized after I said it, I was like, you can say that, but if he feels that alone, like, I mean, I guess it was a nice gesture, and you're letting, like, you're extending that love. He may not feel that right now. He may not be open to it, but just let him know. Just be there. I think just people knowing that they may not want to accept it, but just being there might be fine, be helpful, or just changing their receptivity, be more receptive to it.
Yeah, right. Because you can feel it, and I can see that you feel it, right? When you are talking about the guys on the call or your cousin, right? It's hard to say the words because you can't fix it for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And that's
but
the thing.
You feel it, and I can see that just in your expression and in your voice, how much you feel for them.
At the same time, though, I realized, like, and this is maybe this is the way that I think about. I've been thinking about this lately, and as much as I don't want them to be hurting, it's like they need to figure themselves. And I think I can't curtail their own growth by me trying to not allow them to be like. Not wanting to have them be in discomfort is also limiting, because in the way you're not going to grow from that. And so taking that, like, when I think about my daughter and I think about these men, I'm just like, I want to tell you that it's okay and that everything's going to be great. And I do think that it's valuable to hear that, because that ray of light is so hopeful. Seeing somebody else, he's like, I can do it too. You get motivated. But the other thing is that I just feel that sometimes when you, like, as much as you don't want them, you see them suffering and you don't want them to suffer, it's also in a way, they're growing from that. And I guess knowing that, I think for me, it's like, okay, well, hopefully that they could grow from there, from that pain. And that's all you can really hope for. Like that's why like being there, present, and, you can try to support them as much as possible, but as long as they're like, really, like, I feel like they're really the only people that could really, like, you can only help yourself, and other people can try to support you and help you and be there for you, and sure, like, they'll be auxiliaries, but at the end of the day, you need to do that.
Yeah, it sounds almost, Gerardo, like you feel for them in that discomfort, but even if you could just remove it, you don't necessarily want to, because if you take away that pain for them, you're not allowing them to grow through it or have that experience. Like,
so having to, when you ask me about, that's what I would say to myself. That's why I wouldn't want to say anything.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I wouldn't want to say anything.
Like, let him go through this.
Grown, exactly.
There's such a respect there for the other person's process and experience and growth. I'm glad you mentioned, Gerardo, that this, like, having your parents there with your daughter, the way that your parenting is different from the way you were parented. Because that's so much of what the fear I hear from a lot of men is, what's going to happen to my kids, right? Isn't it better for the kids if our family stays together? And it sounds like you're really, the things that you've learned and the way that you've grown through this pain is really changing the way you're raising your daughter for the better too.
I mean, yeah, I think that I'm just that, the way in which I speak, the way my behavior, even when I'm not directed toward her, when I'm talking to the dog, the way that I treat other people, like, she's learning and picking on all those things. So in a way, has shown me how to not only, it's a three-way street. It's like, not only am I establishing a relationship with my daughter, which is very important to me, I'm reestablishing my relationship with myself and reparenting myself. But now there's an extra one where my parents are getting to see me interact with my own child, and I think in a way they're getting to see, and maybe hopefully they get to reparent themselves too. That's my goal.
Yeah, you're not fixing anything for any of them, but you're modeling a different way of relating to people and being in the world. Gerardo, thank you so much for taking the time and for sharing some of your experience. I'm
grateful. Thank you for your guidance. Thank you for your patience. And I'm grateful that I've gotten to learn from your work. And I'm grateful that you're doing this for people.
If you found this video helpful, then you have to check out my free masterclass, How to Take Back Control of Your Life After Divorce. In that hour-long masterclass, I go into way more detail than I can cover on these YouTube videos about how specifically to start to heal, to stop the painful emotions, regain your confidence, and take back control of your future. I break it down into steps and give you a lot of actionable items that you can start using right now today to start feeling better. You'll find the link in the video description below under free masterclass, How to Take Back Control of Your Life After Divorce. I hope to see you on the masterclass and in the next video here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.